Hello, I'm Dylan.
And I'm Keon.
And this is Zenith, that podcast where you wear two wigs, because this week we watched Warlord.
Written by Simon Masters.
Directed by Victor Vitalis.
And aired on December 14th, 1981.
No one joining us this week for this episode.
No. Unfortunately.
Because nobody liked Warlord enough.
This is one of my favorite episodes of Blake 7 overall.
I really liked it, and I do think Series D picked up a lot at the end here.
I do as well. This is the best of Series D, in my opinion.
I still
better
like
than Orbit. Better
Sand.
than Games, better than Sand.
I still like Sand. I still like Gold. I'd place this above Orbit for me, though.
Yeah, I would. And I'm actually kind of sad that this is the only Simon Masters script on the show. Because this was, dealing with some real interesting concepts.
What else has he written not for Blake 7? Like, has he done anything else that we know of? Or actually, I didn't...
That we know of? Yeah, probably. But that we have watched? I don't know about that.
Okay, well, let's...
IMDb him?
Yeah, let's look him up on IMDb, I guess. Simon Masters, writer, Blake 7.
Z-Cars.
Z-Cars.
Or Z-Cars, if you're from around here.
He was script editor for Z-Cars. Melissa, the brothers, let's see, he wrote for Emmerdale.
Oh, the Cluedo TV series.
He wrote
Classic.
for Cluedo. Huh. I actually don't know a lot of this. Most of this, in fact. Rough Justice. Yes. Dallas. He wrote an episode of Dallas. Amazing. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, actually, I don't recognize most of what's on that list.
Interesting.
But it seems like mostly cop shows or like crime-related shows.
That's what it seems like.
Which is interesting, considering the themes that this episode deals with.
Yeah, this episode kind of riffs on the, again, Star Trek kind of motif. You know, Star Trek is based around this federation of it was founded by 4 different alien species coming together to start the Federation, which is how this kind of starts. But then they do the Blake 7 twist where one of them is backstabbing the other one. Did you notice?
Which is okay because these 4 guys are like, the acting in this was pretty bad. Like
these 4 guys. Before we go too far, because we start with Avon giving the most enthusiastic business presentation I've ever seen anybody ever give. But these 4 guys, did you notice the obvious reuse of Doctor Who costumes in this scene?
Yeah, like the one guy with the Ice Warrior helmet.
The one guy with the Ice Warrior helmet, but also the other guy who has the seal of Rassilon just on the middle of his chest. Because it looks like he must be wearing like leftover Time Lord robes.
Maybe it is. Maybe that's how Terry Nation would write this, is that would be Rassilon.
Press X to doubt.
You never know.
But Paul Dow's really acting the shit out of the scene.
No, well, the main characters in this are good as always, and what's great about this first 5 minutes is that Tarrant is nowhere to be seen.
The instant Tarrant shows up is when everything goes wrong in this story.
That's true. In story, I'm guessing you're talking about, and yeah, that's very true. But this scene is so interesting to me. Because this episode, and it actually plays it up a bit too much at the end, I think. But right away, right off the bat, this scene sets up what this episode is about, which is the conflict. Well, maybe it's not as much of a conflict as people think between empirical knowledge and, I don't know, like what you'd call it, like ideational knowledge, notional knowledge, literary knowledge even, knowledge from past, from books, from art.
Right.
And it does that in like such an interesting way where it deals with broadcast versus like live broadcast versus watching a recorded video. And just hear me out on this.
I don't know where you're going with this, but I disagree.
Wow.
Hey, I'm allowed to do that.
But the very first scene Avon gives this presentation, which we can kind of explain what this is, right? It almost feels like Series A, like the first episode where they're all drugged out and stuff like that. But also at the end where Blake gives that he creates propaganda video or whatever.
I mean, it feels like what? God, I literally just thought of it right now and I forgot. It feels like a sales pitch. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
I just wanted to point out how hilarious the video that Avon is showing actually is. That looks like it was filmed in like a literal mall just down the road.
No, it is. Like I believe was. There's a video I found on YouTube about someone going to the location where this was filmed, and it's at a mall.
And there's this amazing, and I'm amazed we haven't had this on Blake 7 until this point, because it's like amazing. Picture in a picture in this video that Avon's showing that we've never seen on Blake 7 before, and probably never will again.
What do you mean by that? We have one episode left to do it.
That's why I can say that probably never will. But, people going up the escalators, and then the bottom right is like a picture of like film of the guards watching the people go up the escalator, and then you see the guards shoot, and then there's the light on the people as they fall down. Picture in a picture, and I was like amazed. I was blown away. This is the biggest technical achievement in Blake 7 by far. It's actually not. I'm totally overplaying it, but I just thought it was great.
It's actually interesting with what this episode is doing, I think. But yeah, I mean, these people are getting killed by Federate. They're like drugged out and they're getting killed, and they're all numbered. They're not named or whatever. I was wondering, is 54124 there? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, they were drugged up on Pylene 50, which is the drug in Trader.
Yeah.
And which also the drug that they mentioned that they were trying to like reverse the effects of 2 episodes after Trader, but I'm not remembering what episode it was now, but it was there.
That's the entire like driving motive behind this episode, is that they are coming together, these people from different planets, the non-affiliated planets, I think they called them, or something along those lines.
The outer planets.
Is they're coming together to act against Pylene 50.
Yeah, this is totally Blake 7 does Isaac Asimov's Foundation as well. I'm going to talk about that a little later.
But right away, this sets up this difference between watching a recorded video, which is what Avon is showing them, right? He's showing them a recording, versus live broadcast, which is what the people on Xenon base are because they're watching Avon give this presentation. And this is something that people have theorized, and I'm not going to do it justice with my explanation. I already know I'm not. But what live broadcast does to like the genre of, I don't know, like just watching stuff on screens, footage, I guess, is that it makes the liminal, makes the medium of it, and I use that word in like the etymological sense, like the thing in between, halfway between actually, medium. It brings that to the forefront more than ever, because there's this idea that what live broadcast does is it limits the, and let's just assume for this argument that empirical knowledge is completely valid, which there's a whole another debate whether it is or not.
But let's just assume it is.
But let's just assume it is for the sake of this argument.
It sounds like one of my physics problems. Assume this is true for this problem. It's not in general, but assume it's true.
But what it does, this idea that live broadcast, watching things as they ostensibly are happening at the same time.
Well, let's just assume for this that live broadcast is truly live.
Well, yeah, that's also the thing.
So that we don't say ostensibly. Let's just assume for this that live is live.
That's also the thing, is like when you think of watching something live, there seems to be less rhetoric to it than like something that's shot like, or like a movie where it's a particular like shot, like it was shown to you for a reason. It's people deciding like, all right, this is the angle, and here's the lighting, and here's what we're gonna do, and here's what we're gonna do in this shot. Whereas live broadcast is like, all right, how can you do that, right? It's live, it's being shown to you.
Well, I mean, the thing is that you can do that with live broadcast.
Can.
I don't know where you're going, but like they started doing, or brought back. They used to do like musicals live on TV, and like that's the whole thing. Is that you have these different cameras, and you swap between the cameras, but like all the acting and everything is done live.
Yeah, no, I mean,
like the light work is done live. So.
Yeah, no, you definitely can, for sure. But to the same extent, I'm not sure. But that's also just this idea, which is theorized, I guess, in a slightly different way, where the rhetoric of like live broadcast is that it limits the amount of empirical knowledge that you can, or it limits your ability to question the validity of like, I don't even know what this sentence means, of its empirical, like epistemological value, in that like it takes you out of the, I don't know, explain it. Like for example, if you are watching footage, you can be standing like recorded footage, not live, you can be standing in the place where the camera was. But if you're watching a live broadcast, you can't be standing exactly where the camera is and also watch the broadcast at the same time.
Say that again?
If you're what
do you mean by standing where the camera is? Like physically
where imagine a camera like on a stand or just a camera placed somewhere.
Okay.
If you're standing like right where that camera is, and if you're watching a recorded footage, you can be standing where the camera was that recorded that footage.
Okay.
And watch it at the same time. But
Okay.
if you're standing right where a camera that's broadcasting something live is, you can't be watching the broadcast.
Why not?
Because then what would be broadcasted would be just a continuum of like nothingness.
I don't think I quite get it.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you're standing right where a camera...
I mean, are you replacing the camera in this scenario? Or...
No, then, I mean, because then you could be standing really... Like, if you could replace the camera, then it wouldn't be broadcasting, but from the same location. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, I guess, like, in a way, yeah, you are, but, like, you can't... Because the camera's there, you can't be there at the same time, you know? You can't, like, be right where the camera is and be watching the broadcast. Whereas you could be right where... Because the camera's not... Like, if the footage is recorded, the camera's not necessarily there anymore.
Okay.
So you're standing there...
I see.
Imagine you're like looking at a landscape and you're also at the same time watching footage of that exact landscape being recorded.
Yeah.
It's think about it in terms of time. Like if you're watching that broadcast, you're not right where the camera is at that time, you know?
Okay. Why is that important though?
Because it limits the amount of there's a sense that like what you have then, all you have then is the broadcast. That's all you have to go by in terms of the empirical knowledge that you can get of it, which is kind of paradoxical. Because empirical knowledge uses the senses, but what broadcast does is it takes that and says, all right, your senses are now mediated. Because you can't be because you can't be in this situation, all you have now is what the camera's showing you. The potential for things to be different if you were there is not possible because you couldn't possibly be there and see what you're seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a thread throughout this entire episode is people watching things and believing things based on what they're seeing in a mediated sense. But there's also this thread of like, you know, the thing of like, you know, believe my words and not what you see or whatever. And,
other way around. If you don't believe my words, believe what you see with your eyes.
Well, that's what Zucan says.
Yeah.
But that's what results in his death when he doesn't believe his daughter. But we'll get there.
But that's not his eyes, see. That was the thing is that that's the thing is that he actually, the reason why he dies is because he actually does believe what people see. Because people claim to see his daughter on the planet.
So what he believes is the empirical, the sight.
Yeah.
But not just the words. Not just I don't know what you would call it because again, there's in the past 300 years, there's been a privileging of empirical knowledge, which is not necessarily a bad thing, although I'd use that word importantly, necessarily a bad thing. Because there's not even a word for like what this really is, I guess literary knowledge. There's this book, it came out this year, like a couple months ago, called The Experimental Imagination by Tita Chico, who is like this literary theorist, I guess. She talks a lot about this. It's an interesting book. Although I just like how she deals with James Thompson's Winter, which is like one of my favorite poems, and she says some stupid ass shit about it. But
except as you've noted multiple times on this podcast and Trust Your Doctor, if you can draw evidence from the text, any opinion about the text is valid, about what the text is saying, as long as you back it up with evidence from the text.
Yeah, but not all opinions are equal.
No.
And I think hers are not.
I mean, you can have an opinion about her opinion, but that doesn't make her opinion less valid if she backs it up with evidence from the text, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but when I say like unequal, I mean like the way that you draw from the text and the things you say about the text based on the conversations and based on what other people have said also needs to be well researched.
Does it have to be well researched?
Yeah, I mean, if you want people to believe it, like, yeah.
What if you don't care if people believe it or not, Bo?
Then you're probably not writing in academic settings.
No, exactly, like this podcast.
Yeah. But she is. Also, she just says stuff that I don't agree with. Because I don't know. I point to other moments in the poem there's like, see, you're wrong.
I mean, but then I guess your opinion is contrary to hers, but just based on like the whole, if you can draw evidence from the text, then your opinion is valid. That doesn't mean that her opinion like is, I guess, empirically stupid. It's just stupid to you. Like I might read her points and be like, yeah, I think she makes a good point and I agree. Right?
Yeah, you might, but then I would completely disagree with that.
Yeah. And that's okay. I mean, I know we joke a lot about opinions being wrong, but
yeah, that's the ultimatum of subjectivity.
Anyway, these people are forming this coalition of planets to fight the Federation, except they're all like, we don't have armies, and you kind of wonder why Avon found the 3 planets who don't have armies.
Just going back a second, the reason why I brought that book up in the first place is that she calls not opponent, because what this entire book is about is how empirical knowledge and what she calls literary knowledge are actually more implicit in one another than people really think. But that's the reason why I brought it up is because she uses that term literary knowledge, which I want to apply here because, I mean, even though it's not literature, it's, the spoken word, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, Avon's showing them this video.
He's doing real fancy point motions and he's like, you can help us now. And anyway, they're not really buying it because it's like, again, he got the 3 planets that literally don't have any armies. Yeah, but 4 planets.
And what's interesting here is that Avon is using there's live broadcast in this scene, but it's not what's being used to like propagandize this thing. It's actually the recorded footage. But interestingly, in some way, I hate to go back to this because we've talked about it so much, but in some way, this recorded footage also resembles live broadcast in a way that, like, if you were in this situation, you would, like, you couldn't be seeing what the camera's seeing because you get shot. Right? And there's that moment at the end of the video where the guard's like, oh shit, there's a camera here, and he goes and like runs and either breaks it or turns it off. And you wonder like how they got the footage if that's the case. Right?
Well, I guess they didn't destroy the footage or it gets uploaded to a server somewhere off planet or something. Like I said, this is Blake 7 does Foundation in like a couple ways, but like the main point is, in Foundation, the human empire collapses. It doesn't collapse like immediately, it collapses over time, much the way the Federation seems to have done in this damn show. And, part of it's not Foundation, I think it's Foundation and Empire, is that this, guy unites the outer planets, the mule, in this case being Avon, unites the outer planets to kind of push back against the remnants of the human empire as they try to push against the outer worlds, is what they literally call it in Foundation. Yeah.
But these guys, they don't want to cooperate.
They also, again, they don't have armies because they've all been destroyed by... What's the name of the other planet now? It began with a B, and I keep wanting to say Belkov, but that's the name of a person.
A beta something or the other?
Beta foil. That's what it is.
Beetlejuice.
Beta foil.
What is it? Beta
foil. FAIL.
Wow.
Foil. Anyway, but then the guy from Beta Foil, Zucan, shows up with his glorious pink
top
man
knot.
bun. His pink man bun.
And he's the warlord. He's the titular warlord.
Yeah.
He's like, all right, here's what's happening.
I'll help you guys. And then they do this, like, hilarious, but I loved it, over the top, like, where they all pledge their support to this new fledged alliance, and then they all clink their glasses together, and they all go, I pledge, and they all do this really over-exaggerated, like, clinking of the glasses together.
Well, this is where I I don't know what because this is the same effect.
Shoots out like static electricity. Yeah,
and this is the same effect as what happens later when they mess with the air ducts. So I don't know if this was, because they haven't done that yet, but this was supposed to be foreshadowing for it or something like that. I don't know.
I really don't know.
But what's interesting here is Zukan has this line, because they don't believe that he's already put like massive amounts of funds into counteracting Pylene 50. He's like, well, if you don't believe my words, believe the evidence of your own eyes. But so then what he shows them is, surprise, a live broadcast where, they couldn't possibly believe the evidence of their own eyes because they couldn't be there if they're watching the broadcast, but they are. Again, it's a mediated space where they have no access really to empirical knowledge.
Except they do have access in this case because they're in the same facility so they can just go there.
They can go there, but they couldn't.
They're just all deciding to be lazy.
They couldn't be watching the broadcast if they were there. And that's why Zukan's saying, believe the evidence of your own eyes, and showing them the broadcast is a form of propaganda.
But I mean, the point of this isn't not to believe your own eyes. The point of this is like not to believe just your eyes. Because in the broadcast, you've only got your eyes. But like if they went down in there, they could like open the box and they could smell whatever's inside. They could feel it. They can listen, right? There are other senses you can use. And then they'd be like, there's a fucking bomb in here.
Right. I do agree that this episode is not against empirical knowledge. I do think the rhetoric of this episode argues for a knowledge that includes the empirical, but also more.
Mm-hmm.
Which is always interesting in a science fiction setting.
Anyway, it turns out Zukan's daughter, Sia,
Ziona,
looks like Sia in her massive wigs that she wears when she's performing.
I don't even know who that is.
The singer-songwriter, Sia.
Sia?
S-I-A.
Maybe she was like, Ziona? Siona? Sia? I don't know.
Sia actually covers her face while she performs because there was a reason for this. She used to show her face, but then she like retired. But then when she came back to singing, she started covering her face in live performances. And I think it was something like, she didn't want to be recognized, but also she wanted her vocals to stand on their own. Interesting. I have to look up the exact reason.
Okay.
Anyway, just
interesting.
Ziona's wig reminded me of Sia's.
It looks like she's wearing two wigs because she has...
Yeah, one on either side. They're pretty big. Yeah. And the pink. I guess everybody on Beta File has pink.
The outer one is like blondish pink.
And...
all two people on Beta File.
Yeah. She's like, yeah, I just came because, I wanted to get off Beta File. But also because I wanted to see Tara. It turns out Tara just had this mad love affair with Ziona in the past.
This is a part of the episode where it's like, great, it's a Tarrant episode. Not only is it a Tarrant episode, it's a romantic Tarrant episode.
Well, Tarrant shows up and then him and Ziona sneak off to go, I guess, sleep together. When no one's watching. Yeah,
this is the part of the episode where things start to fall apart because Tarrant
shows up.
But no, I mean, really, I liked where this episode went, actually.
It kind of begs the question, like, does Tarrant really love Leona? He seemed pretty willing to just kind of sleep with Servalan. I guess the justification is, well, he thought he was going to die in sand, but at the same time, do you think he's ever going to mention, like, offhandedly to Leona, like, hey, by the way, I totally slept with Servalan?
Well, the scene at the end, he looks pretty distraught.
Yeah, it's his own fault, though. Do you really think about it?
Okay, well, I mean, if you question whether or not he really cared about her, I'd say, like, yeah, he looks pretty distraught at the end.
Yeah. I guess. Is he just playing it up, though? Like,
as soon as Dana leaves, he's just like,
got him. Is he doing a villa, is the question. And I would argue no, but...
yeah, I don't think he is.
Yeah.
I want to continue believing... we're almost at the end of the show, so I can, that Tarrant is just...
inept.
Yeah.
Me too.
I don't know if you scroll down to the comments when you watch these episodes on...
no, because I download them off...
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I download them off the site so that I can watch it without being connected to the internet. Yeah,
I normally don't... well, I do. I watch them online, and I normally don't scroll down, but I did on this one, and the very first comment was... possibly the best comment on YouTube or even the internet in general, it was something along the lines of like, hate Tarrant, just want to punch that little Piece of garbage.
Don't we all? Random anonymous internet commenter. Don't we all? Anyway, we get some shots where Zukan finds out Leona's on the planet, and I think he finds out because his subordinate, like, spies on the Scorpio crew and sees Leona with them.
Yeah, there's some
Su-Lin is, like, keeping it secret because, Leona's like, I don't want my dad to know. He'll be really upset.
There's some establishing shots of this guy that indicate that, all right, this guy's one in league with Zukan and is up to no good.
Right. Turns out he's planting bombs.
Yep. And I mean, later on, in a few minutes, he has this scene where Zukan gives him what looked like cans of spray paint. He's like, all right, plant these all over the area.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of Su-Lin's hair, in an episode with as crazy designs as this one had, it doesn't stand out as much, but it's sort of like, it's also kind of a top knot bun thing, kind of like Zukan's, but it has like a braid wrapped around it.
Yeah.
We didn't mention the other whack hairstyles in this, because I mean, Zukan's and Ziona's are pretty out there, but the one guy who had like the giant just pillar.
Yeah, shout out to that guy for having a.
Who was probably the worst actor in this. I didn't write down the line, but if you're watching the episode, it'll stand out. It's like the one line that this guy has.
Anyway.
And he mucks it up.
Yeah, well, that's par for the course here, really. They decide basically to send, I don't remember what it was exactly. They decide to send...
Ziona needs to get, Zukan wants Ziona off Xenon base.
Right.
Because he's about to blow the place to smithereens.
But that's not the reason why he sends Scorpio back to Betaphile. He sends them carrying something.
Yeah, Ziona.
Back. No, something more than Ziona. There was something else, and Ziona was like a side trip, and that's why they couldn't just go back for Ziona once she teleported off, was because they had something else they were delivering to Betaphile, and I don't remember what it was.
No, the reason they give for not going back to pick up Ziona is that if they do that, Zukan will know that she's back on the base. At that point, they don't know the bomb. They don't know about the whole bomb plot. They just don't want Zukan to know that Ziona's back there.
I'm sure there was something else that they were carrying back to Betaphile, though.
If there is, I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, I don't remember because Tarrant was supposed to be the pilot. That was the thing, is that's why they changed the pilot out, because Tarrant was originally going to pilot Scorpio to Betaphile carrying whatever this was. But then when they find Ziona and Ziona's going back on Scorpio, he tells Avon that he should pilot it instead of Tarrant because he doesn't want Ziona and Tarrant to be on the ship together.
I think he's just saying that as a dad doesn't want Tarrant and Ziona going off somewhere.
Yeah, he doesn't want them...
Because there's also this thing where Servalan comes back later and she's like, you shouldn't have let Avon pilot the ship. We needed Avon on the base. No,
yeah, I agree. He's just being a dad. He doesn't want Tarrant and Ziona together. But the thing is, Tarrant was slated to pilot Scorpio before they even found Ziona. That's what I'm saying.
Maybe he was just the pilot. I don't know.
That's how I'm sure that there was something else.
Yeah, I see what you mean, but again, I don't remember that. I don't know. I don't remember
I'm sure there was something else they were carrying back to Betaphile.
Well, let us know. If you're listening to this.
And there was a reason why they had to take it on the Scorpio too, because otherwise Zukan would have just taken Ziona back with him. Because then Zukan later on was like, well, guess we can leave now, wink, wink to his buddy, because he wasn't actually supposed to leave yet. I don't know. Whatever. He decides. Okay, right. Zukan decides to leave after Su-Lin teleports Ziona back, because I guess Su-Lin is a believer in true love because Ziona and Tarrant are in love, and she just wants to do all these amazing things for Tarrant. And it's like, Su-Lin, why would you help Tarrant? Tarrant, the person who's like the least competent of the crew. Tarrant.
Maybe she just doesn't want Ziona to be under her father's thumb.
Maybe, but Su-Lin is like, I understand what it's like to have your parents die because my dad was killed when I was a kid. It's like, Su-Lin doesn't really relate to Ziona.
Well, you have to relate to someone too, not want to see them under their parents' thumb. But this is really the first and probably last instance where I'd say we really get something for Su-Lin.
Yeah.
Because we get kind of her, and I like how it's done. It's kind of subtle. It's not really discussed all that much. But we get that her parents were killed, kind of like Dana. Another Dana Sulin similarity. But that she made the killers regret it eventually.
Yeah, she killed them is what she's implying.
Right. She has a personality in this episode. She does stuff. And but just coming like one episode from the end is what it is.
Too little too late kind of thing. But at least they tried, I'll give them that. And then Avon storms and he's like, what did you do? And she's like, I sent her back. And Avon's like, you fool! I mean, it is, because as soon as Zucan gets back to Beta File, he's going to be like, where the hell is my daughter? And then he's going to come back, and if he wasn't planning to bomb them already, which he is, he would be. So...
But they decide not to go back because otherwise Zucan will know that Ziona is back there.
But then Aurak is like, hey, there's a bomb in the base. And Terrence like, what? And Terrence accidentally sets it off by running into it, I guess.
Another instance where he should have believed words rather than his own sight. Because Aurak is telling him where it is, and he's like, I don't see anything. And he walks right into it. Damn.
Yeah, he probably should have asked Aurak.
Literary knowledge,
he probably should have asked Aurak how to disarm the bomb before going in there.
Freaking Terrence should have died. He should have died right here.
Yeah, because, I mean, I wasn't sure. I was a little unsure because it sounded like Zucan set the bomb off, like, manually, but it also seemed like, by the way Terrence walked up to where it was supposed to be, that was, like, motion activated, so I wasn't really sure. But if it was motion activated, Terrence should have asked Aurak how to disarm this bad boy before going in. Even if it wasn't, Terrence should have asked Aurak how to disarm this bad boy. Villa's getting drunk on the side now. As soon as the bomb goes off, he finds the bottle of wine, and he's like, I'm going to just get smashed.
Pretty sure Villa is just completely over, almost dying every other day at this point.
I would be too, honestly. I mean, he's like, look, we're going to die down here. May as well get drunk while we're down here. That's kind of his justification. He doesn't outright say that, but...
Well, later on, when they're wondering whether or not they're about to die if they flip the switch, Villa's like, well, go on. Like, what difference does it make? Like, just do it. We either die now or we die in 14 hours.
Plus, he's actually being pretty clever, though, because I would rather die quickly in a massive blast of radiation than die slowly, suffocating from lack of oxygen. Like, just make it quick. If I'm going to die, make it quick, right?
All right, I'll remember that.
Thanks. Remember, if this podcast ends, I die, so... Not this podcast,
no, that's
trust
your doctor. This one we can
safely
you die
end. Too. But you die too. Trust your doctor ends. I mean, if I was going to choose how I die, I'd rather just die in my sleep, thanks.
All right, I'll remember that.
What are you planning to do to me? You're just ominously ominously saying, I'll remember that.
If you want to read it as ominous, go ahead.
It's pretty ominous. Pretty ominous. I'm believing both my ears and my eyes since I'm looking straight at you. It's pretty ominous.
All I'll say is that both you and I have said many things that we regret on this podcast, that we regret entering into recording on this podcast.
Thankfully, some of the most egregious of those I've cut out and will never see the light of day.
Good thing we're not live streaming this.
Yikes.
And that's the thing about live streaming, is that you could be listening to a live stream while you're there, because there's no visual element usually.
Well,
if it's
live stream
audio,
a podcast,
if it's audio,
if it's a podcast.
If it's audio. So that's totally different. That's theorized in a totally different way.
Someone could be sitting right here, right now, listening to us, but also listening to the live stream. I don't know where they would sit. I guess they could use that chair over there. Emptied it. Anyway. Avon and Sulin land on Beta File and immediately get attacked, but then Sulin's like, I'm Ziona, and apparently these Federation guards have no idea that Ziona has big pink hair because they just buy it.
Apparently these Federation guards are mute. Because even when, I don't know if you noticed this, but even there's a scene later where Sulin directly talks to one of the Federation guards and like asks them something, and he doesn't respond. He just kind of walks up to her and she kills him. But yeah.
Sulin has a very minor part in this.
She has a minor part, but I think she's interesting thematically. She, at this point, Zucan
is revealed to be working with Servalan.
Right, he's revealed to be working with Servalan. He's on Beta Farl, and he's talking with Surfland. And Surfland does this interesting thing where she turns, again, I brought this term up because I wanted to use it because there's no better term, but literary knowledge in a way that's similar to broadcast, to where all you have to go on is her word. I forget exactly what she says or I forget exactly what she's talking about, but what she says is that Zukan has no choice but to trust her words or something like that. Mm-hmm. He has no other means to access what they're even dealing with, similar to broadcast. So he has to trust her.
Right.
So again, that's why I think that this episode doesn't necessarily argue for total discarding of empirical knowledge, because it also calls into question the validity of like the ability to like trick people with your words and stuff like that.
Right.
Servalan does. Again. Actually, I don't know. I mean, I don't know about again. Has she done this in the past?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess she has.
Yeah. I mean,
Zukan's
Zukan,
like, whatever, man.
Zukan then leaves to go conquering, and the ship goes spiraling out of control.
Right, but when as Servalan leaves, we see her put something on the door.
Yeah. Well, she also finds out that Avon is on Betafar. She's like, well, that's pretty good. But then Avon escapes because Ziona is actually Sulin, and they get back on Scorpio and start flying back.
Not using the access she has to empirical knowledge, Servalan believes that it's Ziona.
I mean, Servalan believes that it's Avon, too.
Yeah, she's right about that.
Yeah, still, she just believes it.
Yep. I think she just kind of doesn't care about the situation.
I think she really doesn't care about this whole plan at all. I really don't think she has any faith in Zukan at all. I don't think she thinks this will work.
No, and I also get the impression that she doesn't believe that even if Zukan fails, I don't think she believes that the plan to counteract Pylene 50 could even be a threat to her.
Well, not only that, Zukan keeps hidden from her the location of Xenon base.
Right.
Because she's like, if you just told me where Xenon base is, this would all be over.
Right, so you kind of get the impression that that's what she's really in this for, is to learn where the base is.
Yeah.
Not any of this Pylene 50 Zukan nonsense. She just wants the info.
Back on the base,
Zukan was just a pawn in her game, wasn't he?
Zukan was also
dumb.
I mean, really, it was this whole episode was a chess match between Zukan and Servalan, and Avon and Ziona, and the crew were just pawns. Because Zukan's just trying to get freaking fleet so we can conquer all the other outer worlds. Servalan's just trying to find out where Xenon base is, and neither of the two are giving the other person what they actually want, but they're all being oblique about. They're like giving them things that are like tertiary to what they want. Well, Zukan blew up Xenon base. Servalan's giving Zukan monetary support. It's not what they want, but it'll get them there, right?
Yeah, and they kind of have to posture and do all of this to enact their convoluted plans and stuff like that.
Servalan ends up winning in the end because Servalan's a genius and she always wins.
But that's interesting that you bring that up, because I think that's partly the reason why Avon is like a lot cooler in this episode, or it feels a lot more like his old self than he did in like Orbit. Because he's not the aggressor in this. He's not like the mastermind he is in Orbit. He's just trying to survive.
Yeah.
Just kind of
even though
Avon,
out of everybody in this story, is in the best position to survive because he's on Scorpio flying back with Sulin under absolutely no threat at all. Because Zukan's spinning out of control. He's like, I need help. And people on Xenon base are like, we need help. And there's a three-way communication going on here.
We didn't mention that when the bombs went off on the base,
it sealed them in.
It sealed them in. There's been cave-ins. There's rubble everywhere. Presumably, everyone else has died or gotten caught as well.
Right.
And they've tried to. There's a lot of time spent in this episode also messing around with computers and trying to find a way out and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which is again thematically interesting, but you know. There's that neat little thing where the interface to like seal off part of the duct is like drawing a little box and deleting it or whatever. Well,
right before that, I don't remember what this is referring to, but my favorite Avon line in this is that I think it's now actually when somebody tells Avon that something is nearby, and he kind of points at Slave in like a really aggressive manner and goes, "Find it, Slave!" And I just thought it was a hilarious line.
Well, then Slave replies with, "I already have." The like one time he's been competent.
But I just love Paul Darrow's acting. "Find it, Slave!" Anyway, they pull up this schematic diagram. I actually think Slave finds the schematic diagram of the base is what he's looking for. And it's like an ASCII diagram.
ASCII?
An ASCII diagram of the ventilation system on Xenon base.
Yeah.
And then he tells Tarrant to just reverse, because the bomb apparently reversed the airflow in one of the ducts, so it's sucking air out instead of sending it in. So he tells Tarrant to reverse it so they'll get fresh air, so they'll survive till Avon and Sulin arrive on the base.
But also the thing is, it's pumping in a virus.
Yeah, it's pumping in the radiation virus.
Yeah.
I think it's what it's called. I think they should call it radiation
Dana
virus.
calls it a radioactive virus.
And then Ziona's like, Zucan, tell them how to stop it because I'm on the base. He's like, no, you're not. You're on beta file.
Well, he has this breakdown when he finds out, or when Ziona tells him this. He's like, no, that's not possible. Like, you have to be on beta file. You were seen and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So this is the moment where it all comes to a head, where Zucan doesn't believe Ziona's words. He wants to believe in the, again, faulty empirical evidence that she was on beta file.
I mean, it's kind of going back to that Series C thing where it's like, you believe what people tell you. Doesn't, I mean, he never saw Ziona himself, but he's believing his subordinates that they saw her, right? He's believing that that the Federation troopers know who Ziona is, and that this lady who claims to be Ziona actually is.
Right. Just bringing it all back to broadcast, the Federation soldiers are, I want to say incompetent, but they're also the medium here, right? There's a medium. I don't know. I mean, now the more I think about it, the more this episode seems to deal with the idea that empirical evidence is useful if you're actually using it properly, like in terms of like using your senses to get information.
To make a well-informed decision.
Right, and not using your senses in a mediated way where there's something in between, where there's a live broadcast in between, where you couldn't possibly be there, or where there's like a guard telling you something.
Right. Anyway, Zucan blows up well before he said he would. Well, kind of sucks for him.
Does he? He's spiraling out of control.
Yeah, but he's like, Avon's like, look, we can make it to you, but...
Oh, yeah, you're right. He has a couple hours.
He has a couple hours because he's like, look, the people on Xenon will be dead before we get to you, and the people on Xenon have 14 hours before they'll die. So it's like, it'll take him at least 14 hours to get to Zucan. But then Zucan just blows up right now.
Yep.
Anyway, it turns out their plan works. They get fresh air and they survive. And then we get this, like, jump cut of, like, a couple days. Because now everybody's chilling on Scorpio. It, like, cuts to everybody on Scorpio. And Avon's like, you know, I really liked Xenon Base. Can we get Xenon Base back up and running?
I didn't get the impression there was a couple days.
It had to have been at least 25 hours. Because Avon says it'll take them 25 hours to get back to Xenon Base.
I guess, but, I mean...
It's just a weird cut because it's just like it's like a big time jump that wasn't immediately evident. Anyway. And it's like 3 minutes before the end of the episode. Like, it would have been fine to just
they had to kill off Ziona.
Well, I was going to say, it would have been fine to just end it there and then just Ziona doesn't show up next week because that's what they've done on Blake 7 before. Like, this whole final 3 minutes wasn't necessary, in my opinion. And in my opinion of the week is 3 minutes of the episode.
Well, all right. I mean, they're only 3 minutes and they're right at the end, so...
Yeah.
If you have a problem with them...
I do.
Then it's a small problem.
Yes.
But what happens here is that they want to go, like,
They got to deactivate the radioactive virus, but only Ziona knows how to do it.
But Tarrant doesn't want to... Tarrant wants to do it himself, but Ziona's like, no, I got to do this. So she goes down. She's wearing the suit properly and everything, and she would have made it out alive if it wasn't for that meddling, taking a glove off.
Yeah, she took her glove off. I think she wanted to die because she found out Zucan was dead.
I guess.
I mean, that's the implication I got looking back on, like, the way she delivered the lines. She's like, you know I have to do this, Tarrant. Like...
Yeah, I guess she was going off to her death, but she's taking longer than she should be, and Tarrant and Dana go down to investigate, and they find her dead.
And Tarrant's like,
apparently
no!
The virus just, like, turns you into a skeleton right away. Kind
of like, what was it? Hawkins radiation last week in orbit.
Yeah. And Dana seems distraught, but also is like, whatever, kind of walks away. Tarrant seems more shaken up.
Tarrant.
Yeah.
Sorry, Tarrant.
heck yeah. I was like, yeah, at the end of this, where Terrence like crying.
No, I wouldn't wish the death of a loved one on anyone.
No, I just wish other bad things to happen to Terrence.
Like
Like
what?
getting caught in an explosion, which he did in this episode.
And he survived unscratched. Terrence freaking Superman. How would Terry Nation do, Warlord? Do you have other stuff to say?
I mean, I
Let's
just
do that
wanted to,
first.
I just wanted to say, I mean, I really like this episode. My favorite of Series D because of all the thematic and interesting stuff that this is dealing with. Science fiction is a perfect place to deal with the relationship between empirical science, I guess, which is what most people mean when they say science, and literature and fiction.
Mm-hmm.
And often science fiction doesn't do that, which it doesn't have to, but since it's the perfect place to, then there you go. And I also like how this episode isn't about, because it's so easy when you're dealing with like epistemology to just be like, well, empirical knowledge is garbage, or like learning from books is total garbage. Like we need total empiricism. It's so easy to just do that. And I think this episode doesn't do that. I think it's more nuanced than that. And I think it's all the better for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think this was a good episode. I think it was really well paced, well acted, except for that one guy.
Oh, I don't think it was well acted at all.
I liked the acting.
I didn't like Zucan. I thought Ziona sucked. And the other people definitely weren't doing anything to save it.
Thought it was well paced. I liked the plot. It was something we hadn't had in Blake 7 before. You know, the kind of Federation, this anti-Federation being formed by Avon to fight the Federation.
Well, we had Voice from the Past, but it wasn't necessarily the same.
Yeah, but it wasn't. It didn't have Travis. And, you know, I put it up there. I think the final 6 episodes of Series D are definitely...
I definitely see that
strong,
upward trend that people were referring to.
It's just a bummer it came after that, like, bottom out in the beginning of the season.
Yeah, that is a bummer. I also don't agree with the idea that a couple people have suggested that these are some of the best episodes of Blake 7. I think there are other episodes in other seasons that are a lot stronger than these 6.
Yeah. That's something I'm going to wait till next week to determine.
I mean, we're about to watch the final episode.
I know.
It's crazy.
It's kind of amazing that only 3 more episodes to record of this podcast.
3 more planned episodes. We might come back.
3 more episodes. So, how would Terry Nation do Warlord?
I don't believe that any of the stuff about epistemology, methods to knowledge, would necessarily be in this.
I don't know if necessarily Serverland would be in this. I know that I've said that about a couple of episodes, but I think Serverland has such a non-presence in this episode. She's there for tops 2 scenes, right? I think Terry Nation probably would exclude Serverland from this story. I think of all the stories where either he would cut down on Serverland's usage or change it, this is the one where it would be like there wouldn't be Serverland in this, because I think Terry Nation would write Zucan to just be a character who just was in it for himself and realized...
You need a couple other edits to this to make that possible.
A couple of other edits, but like Zucan's motivation would be like if he could take out the other leaders, like he would come to this conference to take out the other leaders, and if he could take them out, that would basically leave them open to conquering, which is what he wants to do. I don't know if how much of the rest of the plot would play out similarly, though. I'm not sure how much of these concepts are Terry Nation-esque concepts. Some of them are. I could see him keeping Ziona as a love interest for Tarrant in there.
I can see that.
I don't know.
At this point, I don't know. I don't know how Terry Nation would write these. This is a hard one.
This is a really hard episode to determine how Terry Nation would do, because I do think that of all the episodes, it's the one like most removed from what Terry Nation typically does in terms of themes, in terms of content, in terms of just like overall plot. Just in terms of overall plot, character motivations, I think it's the most of the episodes this season, the most far removed from what Terry Nation typically does.
No, I don't know if I would agree with that. I would have to go through every single one and see.
Maybe Tarrant stays the captain of the Scorpio, and him and Ziona fly off as a loving couple, but then Sulin, when she finds out that her buddies Avon and Dana and Villa are being killed, threatens Ziona, and then Zukov's like, no, you're on the planet. I don't know. Not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think it would be really thematically different.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that's the biggest takeaway here. I don't actually have anything else to say in this episode, though.
Yeah, again, we're
Very
one
dense
episode from the end.
And next week we'll be joined by another guest to close it out. Close out the episode.
Yep.
Podcast. Series.
There's still more to Zenith after Blake.
Well, of course. Because we're doing the way ahead, and then we're doing our retrospective conclusion finale episode.
Yep. Maybe we'll do, I know there's a couple of new Blake 7 audios that are going to be coming out, I think, within the next month or two.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we'll...
I mean, there are a lot of Blake 7 audios.
There are a lot of audios, but because these are coming right when the series ends...
Maybe.
Depending on their content, might be something to look into.
I just got an email from Big Finish about a whole, they're doing a... It's called Blake 7 Restoration. It's they're doing a kind of a 12-part series. The Liberator Crew. It's 12 parts, so I guess they're doing sort of like a pseudo
one a month
series
type thing for a year. Or I don't know.
I think they're releasing them in 4-episode chunks, but kind of like doing almost a season of Blake 7 in audio form since they were 12 episodes long.
That's interesting.
All right, we have a multitude of emails to respond to this week. We have, I think, 3 emails and then a whole bunch of comments on the website to respond to. 3 emails? 4 emails, I think, actually, because we didn't have any major emails to respond to last week for we didn't put them into the episode orbit because we thought it'd be weird because we only had 1 email at that point, and now we have like a million. So anyway, our first email is from Carl from Sydney. It's entitled Games and Sand. I found the games to be rather dull episode, the high, pointless Avon having something productive to do, which has been a rarity this series. He certainly does have a fondness for the ladies, even if one is a computer. On the other hand, I found Sand boring, but after listening to your review, I rewatched and enjoyed it, I think because it was unusual for Blake 7's storyline. And then he has his Fantasy Blake 7, which is coming up soon. And then thanks again for giving me a fresh perspective on my 40th anniversary rewatch of this great show. Regards, Carl from Sydney. All right, thank you, Carl,
thanks
for that email about Games and Sand. I barely remember them anymore, if I'm going to be honest, even though it was just a couple weeks ago. All right, we actually have an email from St. Clinton. Hey guys, I must say that I have loved the Zenith podcast. Hopefully at some point you will come back for some other sci-fi show besides Doctor Who. Yes, I know that doing different podcasts is difficult, as I do too myself, and I'm about to add a 3rd one. Good luck, my friend. Anyways, attached is an audio version of what I think happened to the surviving in real life crew for the fan fiction episodes. That's his Fantasy Blake 7, which will, again, is coming up in a few weeks, and we have the details on that. And once we finish responding to emails, and then take care of St. Clinton. So thank you. Zenith coming rapidly to a close.
It's time.
We will do some other sci-fi shows besides Doctor Who, but after a break. You're adding a 3rd podcast. Have fun. We handled 2 pretty well, but then we got the 3rd one, and the third one was
like the tipping point.
The 3rd one was when everything kind of went to pot. So. All right. And we have an email from RG, Warlord. Good day, Zenith Warlords. Escalators are dangerous. I knew it all along. Avon must be deep in his madness by now. I find all this talking at the start of the episode to be very dull. I think the implication is that Sulin tracked and gunned down her father's killers. It seems that the prop department has acquired a video screen, so they are determined to use it in as many shots as possible. Tarrant's getting some again. Season D has been good to him. I like the way that Avon drags Tarrant out of the room, just grabs him and muscles him off. Avon's flight uniform looks cool. The jump cutting in this episode is really weird. It makes this episode not feel like a Blake 7 episode. Zucan Dunborough Gorak leaves a bomb on the door as she goes. Classic Servalan. Avon gets staked to the ground then with 1 bound. Avon is free. Computers in the future are really crap. Everyone is going to suffocate and die of radiation on the base. Oh no, wait, they're not. Dumbest plan ever. Ziona's reaction to her father's death just looks silly. Compare and contrast Servalan's grief in Children of Auron. I think this episode has the most kissing. I make it a count of 4. How did Ziona get all her hair under that spacesuit? I really did not like this episode. It seemed very disjointed. Wanted to go down and save RG. That's a good point about Ziona's hair. Didn't really think about that when she put the helmet on. Didn't really think, like, where'd the hair go?
Probably is just 2 wigs that she took off.
Okay, but in universe, where... Oh, you're saying she was actually wearing... Like, Ziona was wearing the wigs and not the actress.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying.
Where's your evidence for this?
Where's your evidence against it, huh? Yeah, that's what I thought.
All right. Good points about the jump cutting. Makes it feel very, not Blake 7, I guess. Feels kind of Star Trek-y. And yeah, Sulin tracking down and killing her father's killers, I think we mentioned that as well.
Becomes more clear in Blake. Slightly more clear.
Yeah, slightly more clear, but like not majorly so. And yeah, otherwise really good comments. RG?
Are we rating people's comments now?
No.
Like yours are pretty good here.
No, just saying, really good. And thanks for emailing us.
Thanks.
As always. Coming to the end of the show, so we're not going to be receiving as many emails anymore. Inbox will drastically reduce in correspondence.
What are we going to do for the emails we get? We're probably going to get emails after the podcast ends. Stick them on Trust Your Doctor.
Oh, well.
Special email response episode, and then just continue that when we get responses to that episode, and just continue on forever.
Sounds like a bad idea. I mean, if they come before our final episode comes out, we can just clip them in. But, after that, they just get lost in the ether.
Yep.
Like, everybody's going to be emailing us about the Daleks when that episode goes out, but not realizing that replaces an episode from 4 years ago. All right, we also have an email from Sergeant Drano, Warlord. Hey, guys. So, Warlord, I know I'm coming at it a bit late. Hopefully this still reaches you before release. Yes, you emailed us a day before we recorded. This one opens strong. We get the brutal video of the drugged-out citizen being gunned down for fun with some sweet picture-in-picture action, followed by Avon doing his Uncle Sam routine. Hey, it's like Avon is finally leading and organizing a coordinated resistance against the Federation. Wow, it's finally happening! Zukan seems pretty cool with his sweet pink top knot and his ship from asteroids. Seems like a legit guy at first. Were you guys fooled on first viewing? I certainly was, and was quite disappointed at what a punk he turned out to be. One of the leaders in attendance may be familiar to you. It's Charles Oggins, none other than Queeg 500 from Red Dwarf. This episode...
Red Dwarf is still ongoing, I just found out.
Yeah,
they
you didn't know that?
Revived it.
Yeah. I think they revived it like twice, actually.
Oh, yeah.
This episode has a couple of famous musicians exercising their acting chops too. Rick James, we're not going to say that word, plays Chalsa, and Bobby Brown makes a very convincing woman as Ziona. And Ziona has fallen for Tarrant. Apparently goofy hairstyles attract. Well, she didn't fall for Tarrant in this episode. I think it was implied that there was
there was something
prior
between
romance.
Them. Yeah. Oh
no! Zukan is sabotaging the copying machine. He's put a propane cylinder in the paper tray. That'll never feed properly. The virus gas label on the tank might be a bit on the nose, don't you think? See attached. I like the Scorpio crew suits with the gold collars that match the color scheme of their environment suits. I can't remember if we've seen them before. Oh noes, explosions! Aurak gets killed by a big Lego. Meanwhile, on Beta File, Avon and Sulin get ambushed by Servland's parkour corps, with troopers doing flips off the hilltop for no damn reason. Love it. Clever move by Sulin, posing as Zukan's daughter. Servland gloats with Zukan for a bit, before secretly planting a bomb, which I can only think she must have been hiding inside her vagina. Sulin stabs a guard in the balls with a sonic screwdriver, which I can only think she must have been hiding inside her vagina. Super sweet shot of Scorpio taking off from the planet. Sweet scene with Avon, Zukan, and Ziona. Avon, Servland never told you what happened to your daughter, Zukan. He told me enough. He told me you killed him. Ziona, I am your daughter. And I'm on the base. Zukan, that's not true. That's impossible. And then Zukan sucks so much that he causes his own ship to implode. So even after all these years, I still don't get it. Ziona volunteers to go down to the base and fix the problem. Promises Tarrant she'll be fine. Goes down, fixes the problem, takes her glove off, and is killed by the virus gas. Why did she do that? Was she committing suicide? Throughout the whole thing, Avon gives off a vibe like he knows what's going to happen too. Your thoughts? All in all, a pretty good episode, I thought. Not perfect, but decent and fun. 6 out of 7. Sergeant Drano Station 7 the door. I think we talked about Ziona's actions at the end a little bit when we recorded this episode. But like I said, I think she was going down to commit suicide, and Avon knew. And also, like, she seems to know, and she's like, I have to do this, Tarrant. You know I have to do this. So...
yeah, I guess Tarrant was the only one not clued in. Not surprised.
Yeah, well... that's just Tarrant for you. Sulin... I guess just hiding things in strange places. Ziona, like we said, seems to have a prior kind of romantic attachment to Tarrant that exists prior to this episode. At least that's kind of the implication I got. And Avon doing his Uncle Sam routine. And yeah. Otherwise, nice email. Sorry, Drano. I rate it 6 out of 7 because that's what you gave this episode. And we've also got a few comments on the website to read from Jürgen and also from one from David. So Jürgen, this comment is on episode 47. Which I don't quite...
Sand, I want to say?
No, this was the episode before Sand. Whichever one was before Sand.
You got me on what that one was. I don't
Was
remember.
it Games? I think
it was Games.
Hey guys, another comment from one of your so-called serious followers. We'll be working on my Blake 7 fantasy story while I'm on the train to Antwerp. Would you be guys interested in the first draft? It's Sulin and Dana, good shades of grey, against evil. Agree with you about Mr. Derek. Keanu could have reined it in slightly, however, enjoy his performance. And I'm happy that I can continue to listen to his dulcet tones courtesy of Big Finish. His English enunciation is beautiful, don't you think? I was also reminded of the episode name. Nice to have lady voices for computers in Series D. Yeah, it was Games. Okay. Now we have a section to go through. This first one on episode 48. This is Sand, Decorative Tent featuring RG. It was actually Sulin who suggested a rainstorm might be enough to kill the sand on the planet. There's some nice bonding of her and Dana over being allowed to live. More evidence that these women liked each other. Sulin cares about Dana, so that's why she's angry when she finds out about Tarrant. Thanks for bringing that up. I actually forgotten that Sulin was the one who figured out that the rain would kill the sand. And that's kind of a major plot point, a major character developing moment for Sulin that we...
Major in the sense that it's like the most major thing she kind of does. I mean, it's not... If she was more focused on it, wouldn't have stood out as much, I think.
Right. And then some comments on episode 49, Ocean 7, featuring Maurice. This was... What was that episode? Gold. I listen to this podcast for you guys. Your opinions are refreshing. You make me laugh in a good way. So a way to laugh in a bad way? Interesting point about our hero shooting armed peeps willy-nilly. I suppose Sulin has to shoot the guards, because otherwise they would have killed themselves. Maurice is a great guest. There's just so much to comment on. Such a great podcast. Good point about the teleport. Never thought about how silly it was of Blake to mention it earlier on. Dana not shooting Servalan. She was holding a gun against Keela's head. I know it's weak. I know I go on about Sulin and Dana, but I'm biased when it comes to Sapphirs after all. Isn't it great to see our gunslinger standing up to Avon again? He has definitely lost it and makes it easy for me to find another reason for Sulin and Dana to sort of commit mutiny in my fantasy Blake 7 story. I'm extremely curious to hear your fantasy Blake 7 story, Jürgen. It sounds like it's going to be fascinating. Sulin and Dana running off, committing mutiny. Interesting. Very interesting. There'll be a lot of unique concepts for this fantasy Blake 7 thing.
Yeah. And we can just blend them all into one mess.
I'm super excited. I'm actually really excited to see what everybody's come up with.
Yeah.
Because I haven't taken a look at a lot of them yet. Because I don't want to influence my own. I want to make my own.
I just realized I haven't put like the last 3 that I saw on Twitter on the doc. So thanks for reminding me.
Yeah, you better we have our own little internal Google Doc where we've been keeping them. And then we have one more comment from David. This is on episode 50, Dollar Forever Toothpaste featuring Sergeant Drano. That's Orbit. Jackie had a wardrobe malfunction this episode. It is the first scene with her and Agrorian. You can see her boob. John Saviden.
Glad we're watching this in the 21st century with pause technology.
Had previously appeared in the Blake 7 episode Trial as Old Starkiller. Huh. I didn't notice the wardrobe malfunction. Shows how much attention I was paying, I guess. Actually, I don't know how obvious it was. It was really easy to miss. I don't know. And I'm not going to go back to find it. So just going to take your word for it, David. Are you really?
Probably not.
Yeah, I was going to say. And so thank you for everyone for reaching out as always and sending us your thoughts.
Yeah, thank you.
We really appreciate it as always. We love hearing from our listeners and getting different perspectives on the show.
Especially as we're drawing near to the end.
Right, especially as our own time with the show comes to a close. In the arms of an angel. Anyway, in regards to our fantasy Blake 7, basically we're asking for our fans to, and even if you're not a fan of Zenith, you can email us, I guess.
Yeah, anyone. Email, Facebook, Twitter, or leave a comment on the website.
Just, kind of pitching your fantasy version of Blake 7, like fantasy football, but for Blake 7. Who do you want playing the characters? Who would you have doing scripts, script editing, producer, whatever you want?
Story ideas. And you can set this in an alternate history where Series E happened, I guess, or like a reboot or something. You can do whatever you want.
Or like from the 80s, like in the era of Blake 7, if you could cast anyone, who would do it? If you could draw from any era, who would you cast?
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want with it, really. Like, it's very open-ended, and it's open-ended intentionally.
Right.
And on our final episode, which we'll be releasing the week after The Way Ahead, we'll be releasing one final wrap-up episode for Zenith. On that episode, we'll be going over people's fantasy kind of Blake 7. We'll be pitching our own as well.
Yeah. And just reflecting on the podcast.
And just reflecting on the podcast and the show and looking back fondly on what we've done. Looking back fondly on how we burned ourselves out.
So again, the 4 sort of channels you can pitch your idea on, or email, Facebook, Twitter, and leaving a comment on the website.
As we said, we'll be joined by a guest next week. And if you would like to email us pending the end of the podcast, if there's anything you want to get in before the end, mainly your fantasy Blake 7 stuff, be sure to get that in. I know I've been clipping in a clip of us saying it every week, but in case you forgot, get those in before the end of the show. And we record a week in advance, so try to get them in a week before the final episode is going to go out. You can reach us at thedoctordecorativevegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, angry rants, love letters, your thoughts on Warlord, the titular Warlord Zukov. Zukan. We've had a Zukov before.
Really?
On one of our podcasts.
We had Zarov.
We had a Zukov somewhere. You can find us on Apple Podcasts and Google Play at Zenith, a Blake 7 podcast. You can find us on YouTube at Decorative Vegetable. Be sure to leave a rating if you like the show.
Check us on Facebook, Trust Your Doctor. Like us on Facebook. Also check us on Twitter at TYD Podcast, and follow us on Twitter. And next time, we're going to be joined by Jim from the Crinoid Podcast.
Right. Initially, we said we were going to be joined by Jim and Martin, but due to some behind-the-scenes stuff, Martin won't be able to join us, so we're just going to be joined by Jim. But we will be joined by Jim next week. Right. We already set it all up. It's going to work.
And we're going to be finishing up the Blake 7 TV series with Blake. But until then, the end.